that's the deal. I think so. You're supposed to introduce me, okay.
Just never mind all that stuff right there.
I'll certainly keep it brief. Alrighty, y'all, from all the way over to Monette, Missouri, y'all make welcome Mr. Phil Greer.
Wow, I appreciate that marvelous introduction there. That's great. And
Sitting ovation you got too.
Sitting ovation, yeah, well, sometimes I get a walking ovation, so that's a little bit notch above that, I guess. But I am kind of like the lightning bug that backed into the fan. I'm delighted to be here tonight. And I really, whenever I come to a place like this, what I normally do, besides I bring my instrument, you know, and my pick and things like that, but I also bring me a big old cooler full of ice and a big old blue piece of chalk. And that way, I live in Monette, and it's about 45 miles or so, but that way, if I have those two articles, every time I see a dead animal on the road, a dead possum or a dead rabbit or skunk or something, I stop the car and I draw a big old circle around him. That way, when I'm driving home tonight, if I see a dead one on the side of the road that does not have a circle, I know he's fresh. Well, I'm going to start off tonight with kind of an easy one for you, maybe. It's kind of hard for me. I took a long time to memorize this, about 6 months, but I've got it memorized now. And it's called Pine Tree, and I think maybe some of you probably know it, so I'm going to have you all help me out on the chorus. It's kind of a sing-along. So if you know it, just sing right along. Pine Tree, the key of D. Pine tree, 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 pine tree. Everybody now. Pine tree, 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 pine tree. Thank you, music lovers. Thank you. I'm lucky to be here at all tonight, though, because I've spent the last 2 weeks in the Riviera. And if I ever make any money on playing this kind of music, I'm going to buy some new tires for it, and I'll be in business. But I also had a little problem at my house this morning. I got it taken care of now, but I woke up a little bit late this morning, and my bathroom was on fire. That thing was just blazing, but I was pretty lucky. I got it put out before it spread to the house. Well, I better sing here before they put a noose around my neck. So I'm going to sing this song. It's called The Very Unfortunate Man. It's a song about a lawyer that was not making any money. I don't know if he was any good or not, but he wasn't making any money at all. So he decided, well, enough of this. I'm just going to marry into some money. So he looked around and he found this really good-looking, wealthy old maid. And he thought, well, I'll just marry her and, you know, she can't last that long. So, besides that, she was really pretty, but things didn't quite work out like he had planned, and that's the song called The Very Unfortunate Man. There once was a lawyer they called Mr. Clay. He had a few clients, but they wouldn't pay. So at last at starvation, he grew so afraid that he courted and married a wealthy old maid. At the wedding, this lawyer made one big mistake, but it wasn't omitting the wine or the cake. The rings were well chosen, they had a big feed, but the lawyer did not get a warranty deed. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Well, that night in her chamber, the lady arose, and thus she prepared to retire and repose. As her husband sat near her, admiring her charms, which gave him great pleasure to hold in his arms. Then she went to the washstand to bathe her fair face, and thus she destroyed all her beauty and grace. The rose on her cheek, it soon grew very faint, and he saw on the towel there was nothing but paint. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Well, she went to the mirror to take down her hair, and when she had done so, her scalp was all bare. She said, "Don't be frightened to see my bald head. I'll put on my cap when I get into bed." So she hung her false hair on the wall on a peg. Then she proceeded to take off her leg. Her trembling husband thought sure he would die when she asked him to come and take out her glass eye. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Well, the husband was biting his quivering lips as she was removing her counterfeit hips. Just then her false nose splattered down on the floor, and the poor lawyer screamed and ran out of the door. So all you young men who would marry for life, be sure to examine your intended wife. Remember the lawyer who trusted his eyes, and a little bit later got quite a surprise. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Thank you, music lovers. Thank you. In case anybody has a request, let me tell you about my policy on requests. It's really simple. I have 7 songs listed down here, and any number between 1 through 7 would be appropriate. So that's about all there is. Anybody like Johnny Cash? Man, I do too. I love the guy. I don't know any of his songs, but I just thought I'd check to see if you like him. Now, really, all you got to do if you're going to do Johnny Cash, you got to learn A chord like this. And you have to do this. I've got a sore throat, I'm not feeling fine. I've got a fever of 103.9. I think I'll open up that jug of vintage wine. I'm short on time. I've got the swine. I've got the symptoms of 10 illnesses combined. I've got the doctor and the drugstore on the line. I wish I owned some stock in GlaxoSmithKline. Chills down my spine. I've got the swine. Little Johnny Cash there for us. Thank you, music lovers. It was nothing. So my next, okay, I'll just leave my capo there. You know, I live out in the country. It's probably about 3 miles from the Walmart out there by Monette, and we kind of know our neighbors, but sometimes I just kind of know them by the name on the mailbox. And our next door neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Dunn, and I really have never met them, talked to them too much, but I know them a little bit. But a couple of weeks ago, I was getting ready to make a trip to Kansas City, and Mrs. Dunn came over, and she says, "Hey, Phil, I hear you're going to Kansas City." And I said, "Yes, I am. Why?" She says, "Well, my son lives up there, and I wonder, I haven't heard from him in a long time. I'm getting kind of worried about him, so if you see him up there in Kansas City, would you please tell him to call home, because I need to talk to him." I said, "Well, I don't really even know your son's name." She says, "Well, his name's John Dunn." I said, "Well, there's 500,000 people up there. How am I going to find him?" She says, "Well, he's a lawyer." I said, "Well, okay, I'll make my best attempt at trying to find John Dunn, and I'll tell him." So I drove up to Kansas City and almost forgot, and I got right into town there, and I saw a sign that says attorney at law. So I thought, well, okay, I'm going to try anyway. So I walked in the door, and the secretary met me at the door, and she says, "May I help you, sir?" And I said, "Well, yes. Is there a John here?" She says, "Well, yeah, it's the third door to your left down there." So I went down there and took the third door to my left, and I walked in and just about ran into the guy coming out, and I says, "Are you done?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Well, call your mother." It's a wonder I haven't remembered his name all the way to Kansas City, because I'm getting kind of old, and nobody knows how old I am, though. I'm not going to tell my age anymore. As a matter of fact, I quit telling my age when I was 20 years old. I took a solemn vow to myself. I said, 20 is enough. I'm not going to tell it ever again, and I figure if I've kept it a secret for 39 years, I can keep it a secret forever. But I have noticed lately that things just don't, they don't work like they used to. And I'm getting slow, and if I jump off the wood pile, I don't land as gracefully. And that's not too bad. I can deal with that, but I think I'm losing my mind. And that's really got me worried, because, I don't know, it's been a couple months ago, but I was sleeping kind of late, and my wife's back there in the corner. She always gets up early, and I was just zonked, I was sleeping and sawing the logs, and she came in there and gave me a big old kiss. And well, what's going on? She was smiling real sweetly, and I said, "Well, good morning." She says, "Good morning. You know what day this is?" And I started to say no, but then I thought, well, wait a minute. This must be a special day. So I'm not going to admit I don't know what day it is. So I said, "Well, of course I know what day this is. This is a special day." She says, "Well, yes, it is." So I got out of bed, and I went there to wash my face, and I thought, well, what day is it? And I've done it now. Maybe it's her birthday. Well, no, it can't be her birthday. That just seemed like it just happened recently. And so I went in to eat breakfast, and man, it was bothering me. I thought, well, maybe it's one of our kids' birthdays, and I couldn't figure that out. So, and I teach school, so I went ahead and went into school. And I got there, and I thought, oh no, must be our anniversary or something. It's just a special day, I don't know. So when recess came around, I called the flower shop, and I said, "Send her some flowers, please." And so he sent some flowers, and I wrote a nice little love note on there and everything. And when I came home that night, I drove in the driveway, and I met her at the door, and I said, "Honey, don't worry about supper tonight. We're going to go out to eat on this special day." So we went up to Grant's restaurant up there over by Walmart, had a real nice time, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. And on the way home, I kind of looked over at her, and I said, "Now, honey, how's that for remembering a special day?" She says, "Well, you did great. That's the best Groundhog's Day I ever had." I sing these nutty songs, and I don't know who writes these things, like that Very Unfortunate Man. That's kind of a cute little song, but sometimes the songs are just so wild and crazy, you think, nobody could ever make that up. It had to be a true story, and I think that's the way with this next thing. It just has to be a true story. I can imagine that some old hillbilly was out in a wild somewhere, and he woke up one morning and rubbed the sleep out of his eyes, and he says, "Oh no, this can't be. It sounds funny, I know, but it really is so. I'm my own grandpa." And if you can keep up with this, it makes sense. Well, many, many years ago, when I was 23, I was married to a widow who was pretty as could be. This widow had a grown-up daughter who had hair of red. My father fell in love with her, soon they two were wed. This made my dad my son-in-law and changed my very life. My daughter was my mother, 'cause she was my father's wife. To complicate the matter, even though it brought me joy, I soon became the father of a bouncing baby boy. This little baby then became a brother-in-law to Dad, and so became my uncle, though it made me very sad. For if he was my uncle, then that also made him brother of the widow's grown-up daughter, who of course was my stepmother. Well, father's wife then had a son who kept him on the run, and he became my grandchild, for he was my daughter's son. My wife is now my mother's mother, and it makes me blue, because although she is my wife, she's my grandmother too. Well, if my wife is my grandmother, then I'm her grandchild, and every time I think of it, it nearly drives me wild. So now I have become the strangest case you ever saw. As husband of my grandmother, I am my own grandpa. Well, I'm my own grandpa. Yeah, I'm my own grandpa. It sounds funny, I know, but it really is so. I'm my own grandpa. You know, if you're enjoying these songs, I'm happy to announce that I'm going to be back this winter. Right here on this very stage, I'm going to be back. Because I was over in the corner, and Pam didn't know I was listening to her, but she was talking. And she glanced over at me and said to the person she was talking to, she says, you know, it's going to be a cold, cold day when he comes back. So I'm looking forward to it this coming winter. Now my wife's back there. She's a beautiful lady, and I think she married me for my money, but at any rate, a couple of weeks ago, our washer and dryer went out. We thought, well, we can't do without that, so we went over to Best Buy over there in Joplin. We're going to get us a bargain and buy us a new washer and dryer. So we walked in there, and you know how they are. As soon as you walk in, they pounce on you. And this young man comes over there and said, well, can we help you? And we said, well, yes, we would like to buy a new washer and dryer. And he says, you came to the right place tonight, because we have this washer and this dryer on special. And if you buy these today, you won't pay a dime for 6 months. My wife says, who told you about us? Speaking of my wife, you know, she's getting a little older too. She's not getting near as old as I am, but I was concerned. Wouldn't want to say that about anybody on stage, though, would you? But I was getting concerned a couple of months ago that she was losing her hearing. And it was kind of an embarrassing thing, because I didn't want to talk to her about it, you know, because that's kind of a sensitive subject. So I thought, well, I'll just kind of make an excuse to go to the doctor and ask the doctor. And so I did, and he says, well, are you sure she's losing her hearing? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure, because she's not hearing anything I say lately. So he said, well, I'll tell you what, before we get too excited, we're going to perform an experiment. And what I want you to do is, when you get home tonight, you walk in the door, you just say something, and see if she responds. And if she does, then fine. If not, then you walk a little closer and you say the same thing again in a normal tone of voice. And if she doesn't respond, then just keep getting closer and closer, and until she does finally hear you, and then report back to me. So I thought that sounds like a good plan. So I walked in the door and I closed it behind me, and I said, honey, what's for supper? And nothing. Didn't hear a thing. So she was over the sink, you know, trimming up some stuff. And so I walked about 10 feet closer and I said, honey, what's for supper? Normal tone of voice, and still nothing. And so I got about 10 feet closer and I said the same thing, honey, what's for supper? And I didn't hear a thing. So I got right behind her, and I was getting kind of aggravated at that time. So I says, honey, what's for supper? She turned around and she says, well, for the 4th time, vegetable soup. So when you start getting old, things, like I said, They don't work right. And so this song is kind of about that, and I can look around and I can see several guys are going to identify with this song. I didn't point at him, but I'm sure it will. This works for me, though. I stepped out of the shower. I took a good look at myself. Pot belly, bald head, and man, I thought it was someone else. I caught my reflection on the mirror on the bedroom door. Well, I just don't look good naked anymore. So I'm going upstairs. I turned that mirror to the wall. I hung it there when I was trim and tall. I'd stand right there and I'd strut and flex until my arms got sore. But I just don't look good naked anymore. Well, I used to love the girls, yeah, I loved them one and all. Now they won't get very close to me, they're afraid that I might fall. Well, I went to the doctor for my annual physical exam. Standing there in the buff, he looked at me and said, "Oh, man. What is it, Doc? Some fatal disease? I just gotta know the score." "Nah, you just don't look good naked anymore." Well, me and my wife, we had a dance routine they all said was real unique. Now the only time we're back to back is when we're dancing cheek to cheek. Well, I went to the nude beach to have a little seaside fun. Lying there in my birthday suit, soaking up the sun. Someone yelled, "There's a big white whale washed up on the shore." No, I just don't look good naked anymore. Well, my arches fell and my chest as well, and my butt's a dragging the floor. Well, I just don't look good naked anymore. Well, I've got to do this song here. I've never done this one. I don't know if I've done this on stage or not, but I'll try it. It's just a little song, and I got to put something new on Facebook, you understand, so. So that's what this is all about. Anyway, I'm having a little bit of a hard time keeping the program going because I got news today that one of my favorite characters has died. And you may know him. It's the Pillsbury Doughboy. He did. He died. He died of a yeast infection. And they had his funeral yesterday at 3:50 for 20 minutes. He was buried in a lightly greased 9-inch pan. And the bad thing about it, though, his wife had a bun in the oven. So, I have great faith, though, that one day he will rise again. Well, what do you do when you lose your girlfriend? Well, some people just kind of mope around and don't do much, and this guy decided he'd go out and find somebody else. It's called She Ain't Rose. Well, she ain't Rose, but she ain't bad. She ain't easy, but she can be had. So can I when she whispers in my ear. She ain't Rose, but she ain't bad, and Rose ain't here. Well, she ain't Rose, but she's alright. Lord, she helps me through those many lonely nights. It always feels so good to have her near. She ain't Rose, but she ain't bad, and Rose ain't here. Lord only knows what happened to my Rose. She packed up all her bags and just rambled on down that road. Well, she ain't Rose, but she's getting close. And I guess we're getting closer, I suppose. She makes those sad old memories disappear. She ain't Rose, but she ain't bad. She's the best gal I ever had. She ain't Rose, but she ain't bad, and Rose ain't here. Thank you, thank you. I just have a little bit more time, just about done here. I didn't really keep track of the time, but I can tell you. Okay, I got time for another song. Maybe I'll do a real short one, then I'll do my last one here. I think I've got 2 minutes after, though. I can't tell you 2 minutes after what, because times is awful hard up there in Monette. I had to lay off one of my hands.